everyone. Welcome to Radical Thursday, where we learn from young people that are inspiring radical change all around us every single day. So, for those of you who weren't with us last week, this Radical Thursday, and this is radical spelled Radicle. A radicle is the part of the plant embryo from a planted seed that actually develops into the primary root of the plant. And we find that that is super applicable to the work that we do, and this idea for Thursdays being the day that we bring you the voices of our young people to help inspire you for what's possible. We need hope right now, and these guys are full of it, and it's exactly what we all need. So, Nourish My Soul believes that we need to be planting and cultivating the seeds of change through our young people. And we've been doing that for quite a number of years right now. And we've been really fortunate to have had the pleasure of watching so many young people develop and come into their power. Their unique perspective is so grossly undervalued in our society. And we at Nourish My Soul are working to change that. And we have several programs, and they all center around youth empowerment. But one of our core programs for our older youth, it's for high school students, it is called From the Ground Up. Some of you may follow them on Instagram or Facebook. And they are a remarkable group of young people. And they focus on the intersection of food within all forms of justice. So while we say that it is a youth intensive leadership program, it is centered around food justice, but through the lens of looking at it through racial, economic, and environmental justice. So they take a step back and look at the whole picture. We give them the tools that they need to analyze and research the issues and the problem, especially within their own communities, so that it's extremely applicable to their lives. And while we give them those tools for analytical thinking and problem solving, we also give them a lot of freedom and space to think completely outside of the box. We don't tell them about, maybe what people are doing now or what they have traditionally done. We present them with the problem, or we give them the tools to find the problem. And then we allow them to come up with their own solutions. And then as a group, as a whole, they talk about those solutions. And maybe this is when we step in with a little bit of wisdom about, maybe how that's been tried and what the outcome was, but without taking away their ideas and allowing them to fully explore them. And once they decide as a group, as a whole, what ideas they want to go forward with, we help them in implementation. So we give them all the tools that they need and all the support that they need to implement their solutions to the problems that they have found. And they have done such amazing things. I'm not going to take away the thunder of the young people that are going to be speaking to you because I want it to come straight from their mouths. So I just want you to know how truly inspirational I find them. And I hope that over these next few Thursdays, you start to see that as well. And we're not going to just be focusing on our youth. I'll let them talk about that too. But today, my job is to introduce the world to two of our From the Ground Up alumni. Their names are Bella and Kenya. And these two young women have personally deeply inspired me in so many ways. I've learned so much from them, probably more than what they have learned from me, honestly. And I'm thrilled that we are able to bring their voices directly to you. I think the whole world needs to hear more of what these two young women have to say. And while I say that, I want to also say that I really do appreciate all of your patience as we figure this out. While I am great with nutrition and I am great with people skills and I'm great with helping with mindfulness, One thing I am not great with is technology. I'm willing to learn and persevere, but it's not a strength of mine. So we are learning as we are going, and I hope that the quality of this audio is up to par. But bear with us as we try and figure it out and understand that we are working on it. And I apologize for any audio that doesn't meet your standards, but we are trying. We have very basic equipment. Again, budgets don't allow us to. It's not our main mission. Isn't in audio video, so it's hard to justify spending the money on that at this point in time. And we are all in our own locations, so socially distancing and going about our lives. These young people are in school and college right now, and so we are making the best of what we have available to us, and the message will get to you either way. So we're excited about that. And now I'm going to hand it over to both Bella and Kenya and let them fill you in and inspire you with some Radical Thursday thoughts and ideas, and just hearing what they're capable of doing at their young age is enough to make you think, wow.
Hi, I'm Kenya.
Hi, I'm Bella.
All right, thank you guys for coming on and taking over. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Bella, and what got me interested in From the Ground Up was my deficiencies. I have a lot of nutrient deficiencies, which kind of sectored into the world of food insecurity indirectly. And that's exactly what From the Ground Up is. It deals with food injustice. Now I'm a freshman in college studying exercise and sports science and minoring in public health.
So I'm Kenya, and I first heard of From the Ground Up by Bella came to one of our classes that we had junior year in high school, and we were talking all about food and food deserts and everything. And at the time, Alicia had told Bella that she was looking for more high schoolers to join the high school branch of Nourish My Soul, which is called From the Ground Up. And instantly, like, half of our class was really interested. So it was like 10 or so of us who were like interested. And, people took different paths in life. But Bella and I became super invested in it. And yeah, I just started learning more about how food impacts every area of life, which I had never even honestly thought of before. And yeah. And so now I am also a freshman in college, and I am currently studying early childhood special ed, which doesn't really have anything to do with food. Well, it could. No, it definitely does, because food plays a role in every area. So, yeah. Bella, can you talk a little bit, because you also were on the board of directors for Nourish My Soul, and I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about that.
For me, being put in a position that oversees different, divisions of a nonprofit was interesting, because not a lot of teenagers get to be in that position. A lot of times it's like a bunch of old people and that aren't really necessarily in touch with the youth. And since this nonprofit's whole mentality surrounds youth and food and nutrition, it's important, and I recognize that, and I enjoyed that I was able to give the input and kind of vibe check, I guess, of what we were looking at every time, and bring a new perspective in of I guess, the perspective that the nonprofit was serving. It taught me how to, I guess, communicate with adults who may not always value these inputs on situations.
Yeah, so both of you actually got a really good dose of that at one of the events that you participated in. So I think it might be actually very valuable for our listeners to hear about what that experience taught you, maybe like back it up and talk a little bit about what that experience was and what you took away from that, because I was really impressed with how you both handled that situation. And I think there was a lot of learning for the adults that hopefully other adults listening to this can take away. Maybe that's our inspiration for this week.
Yeah, so Bella, Alicia, and I, and one of our other friends from Southern all took, and yeah, two people. So the five of us all took a trip down to New Orleans for a conference, focused, or what we thought was going to be focused around community kitchens, because at the time we were in the process and the work of really starting a community kitchen in our town. And so we went to this conference with the intentions of learning more about how other people in their towns have started community kitchens. And we were going at first just to learn, but we ended up actually receiving an invite to speak on a panel. So the three of us got on stage, and we were anticipating some questions just about what we've done in our town, and we really thought it was going to be just a conversation back and forth between everyone, just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other and everything. It was a 3-day conference, I think, and in turn, it was honestly the complete opposite of that. It was very eye-opening because the whole time while we were there, no one really expressed or showed the actual purpose as to why we were there, and we were also the only people under 25 there, and it was very clear whenever we would speak, when we got the chance to, and we weren't being spoken over. It was more of, oh, wow, you're so young, you're doing great things, versus, wow, like, there's a very clear difference, I think, when adults tell people younger than them, like, wow, you're really doing amazing stuff, that's awesome, like, I could learn from you maybe, even if you are younger than me, versus in a belittling way, just being like, oh, you're like, you know what I mean? So that was
right, like a patronizing.
Right. So that was the whole trip, honestly. And I don't know, we got back and like we try to learn from everything, and so it sucks that in this instance we learned exactly what not to do. But we still learned. And yeah, I don't know. I just try to implement just the different ways that we were treated when I'm talking to other people, no matter their age. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of times when I'm one of the only kids that are, or kid, when I'm one of the only kids in the room and everyone else is over 30, there's this power dynamic that instantly gets put on you of kind of you not being able to earn a respect or like a peer respect from the adults in the room, like Henry was talking. A lot of times they'll just kind of belittle your opinion because they don't think you've had enough experience, or just brush it off by saying, it's so cute what you're doing, keep it up, you'll get there. So one thing that kind of can touch on is we had to like really learn how to change the way we were communicating, which can be hard when you haven't had to experience that before. You just have to find a way to be really assertive and almost prove your worth, have a chip on your shoulder every single time. And sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, you may think this or that, but we all have different perspectives going into this, and this is what I have found in relation to that. And you just have to explain that the best you can without trying to sound sassy, which is hard because oftentimes when you try to have a normal conversation and you try to put your input in, it's always going to come off as sassy or passive aggressive to the adult because they feel like there is that power dynamic and there should be a power dynamic of respect.
Yeah, I really like what Bella said when like everyone has their own perspective, and especially between the dynamic between like an adult and like a child or a teenager. Like everyone, so like teenagers can learn from adults for sure because of their life experience. But I find a lot of time that adults think that because teenagers have less life experience that they don't know as much, or they they just don't know as much as an adult would. But just because we're younger and we've lived less time, we could possibly have had more opportunities in life and just like learn from other people than some adults have, or we just have had completely different experiences that have taught us lessons that I think are valuable that adults can also learn from. So it's not about the number of years that you've been alive or anything, but it's about kind of what you've done with the amount of time that you're alive, because someone can be alive for 80 years and no less than like a 5-year-old because they just haven't experienced anything. Yeah.
In this particular instance, we walked into the conference only having done large community dinners like once or twice a month or so, and everyone else had some form of a community cafe, which is from a pay what you can model, already up and running. And so we were expecting to go into it and almost expecting to go into it as a amateur and having that mindset. But you have to understand when you go into these situations who you are and your self-worth and what you know, and have your moral compass kind of be strong. It's especially easy when you're little and you're young to let people walk over you and not recognize your worth. But this is one of those moments where you have to say, you know what? Maybe we didn't have a cafe, but we've been doing this pretty successfully. We can have that input.
Okay. Yeah, you know what else I find is often devalued with young people, I think this is where it runs into it, is that you guys have a very fresh perspective, right? You haven't been tainted by a lot of things, so maybe where you're lacking in life experience wisdom, you make up for in a clear view, and you haven't been tainted. So I think in that conference specifically, there were people that had a really different perspective because it had been colored by some of their experiences, maybe, where you guys didn't have that and you were able to look at it for what it really should be and remind people about the reason why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think off of that, another thing is that, like, when you think about, like, the major movements that are going on right now with, like, everything, and even in history, they were all started by people, like, younger than 20, or, like, like, really young people, because, we haven't been, like, like, I like how you said, like, we haven't been painted by anything. But also, we just have, like, I would say, just more drive. Like, as, like, young people, I think part of the reason why we have more drive is because we are trying to prove ourselves to older people. But at the same time, we're simply just very passionate about what we're doing, and we don't necessarily, like, we're not just going to stop, which can come across as disrespectful in some ways, but I think it's also coming across as very passionate, and that's the part that should be more focused on, but the passion versus like, oh, they're just being disrespectful.
Yeah, I think a lot of adults miss opportunities from hearing about that passion, right? Because I think when I leave our meetings, for example, I feel invigorated and hopeful in ways that I don't feel when I'm around adults, because you guys have that passion that drives, and you're able to actually envision something different and have the energy to propel you to get there. You know, as we get older, we get a little tired.
Yeah.
I think also, so one of the most inspiring stories for me in working with the two of you was at that very conference and how it ended. So this was, I just want to let everyone who's listening know, this conference was supposed to be centered around food justice and food access. And we were meeting, like Kenya said, in New Orleans, which for those of you who are familiar, New Orleans has, you know, high food insecurity. There are a lot of, there's a high homeless population there, which we witnessed firsthand just outside our hotel where the conference was being held. And our last, actually our only meal that we were served there, which was on our last evening, there was a lot of leftover food. And so I'm going to hand the story over to you guys to finish that. But I want our listeners to understand how a fresh perspective can really make a difference in the world. And us adults need to kind of take a step back and follow young people in moments like this. So go ahead.
We finished our meal. It was, Super Bowl Sunday? I don't know, some football game was going on. That's very clear in my mind. We were low-key watching it on the DL. And
yeah, well, the Saints were playing, right?
Yeah, it was a big deal. I think it might have been like the game before the Super Bowl or something.
Yeah, Patriots versus Kansas City.
Yeah, and then the foods, it was towards the end of the night, the food started getting picked up and carried away, and immediately, like, we paid for this food, the conference paid for this food, and we were confused because there are, as Alicia said, tons of homeless people surrounding us, and we didn't understand why we weren't taking this food and just passing it out. We had so much leftovers, and it's tricky because that's our perspective going into it, and it was hard, and after, in reflection, we understood why a lot of adults, I think there was only like 2 or 3 adults that were like, yeah, let's do it after we expressed it to them. There are things that come down to it with insurance and, you know, not wanting that population around the hotel for guest safety, and we understand that, and we understand that the workers there might be taking home the food, but ultimately you have to assess the problem as who needs it the most. And it was frustrating to see people not identify that and then try to take away the food from us even quicker after they figured out what we wanted to do. So,
yeah. One thing that really stuck out to me was, so their reasoning as to why they were throwing, it was like there was a whole lot of food left over, like trays full, and the reasoning of throwing it away was because, well, like, you can't just have it like sitting out there. So we said, if we're not going to eat it, it's just going to go to the trash and, like, people, like, the workers there. While there are people genuinely, like, 100 feet away who have not eaten in who knows how long. So if we're not going to eat it and it's just going to go to the trash, why not give it to someone who we know would eat it and use it? yeah, so like, and I don't know, it was honestly really fun. Like, I feel like we were kind of living on the edge a little bit. Like, we were like tasting food as people are walking away with it. But, I don't know. It's just, I feel like that's something that adults wouldn't do. Not maybe that sounds great or anything, but I would say teenagers are very impulsive. I know I most definitely am. So we would just see this food being thrown away and saying, why not let's take it and go give it to people. So that's exactly what we did, and now like people were able to have at least a little bit of food, and they were all so grateful. I think also you just take the time to like talk to people who are living a complete different life. Like you can learn so much.
Yeah, and
no matter what.
Interesting to see because there was unfortunately kind of a greedy vibe in the room where we were eating in terms of not wanting to give the food away, which, like I said, because of other factors, can be moderately understandable in my opinion. But when we went out to the streets and we started passing out the food that we like snatched and ran, it was interesting to see the dynamic and kind of how opposite being in the inside and being out the outside was. The people that we were giving it to were telling us, you know what, there's a person over there, I know they haven't eaten days, can you give them some? Or I'm willing to split it. Do you have any other like utensils or anything so that I can split it with this person so they can also have some food? It was nice to see the empathy and compassion they had for each other that was not seen in the room when adults were looking down at us for trying to grab this food and run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was most striking to me, was seeing the lack of need in that room, right? Everyone had means to be able to get their own food, and yet they weren't willing to share the excess food for whatever those reasons might be. But like, you know, what if you really believe in something, or if you know there's a need, you find a way to do it. But their solution was to just literally throw it away, and they'd rather hoard it than to share it. And yet, like you said, on the streets, the people who had the least were so generous and so willing to share and look out for each other. And I think that was really striking to me. The adults that were in that room with you guys could have learned so much if they were able to witness something like that, I think. Unfortunately, you know, seeing their mindset, they likely won't. And I also am very grateful that we made the decision not to make anything that we were doing into a publicity stunt. You know, no pictures, no recordings. It was just human to human experience and exchange. So that was really powerful. And I'm really proud of you guys for what you did. And I like to tell that story a lot because I think that kind of illustrates to me about the power of our young people and what adults are missing when they dismiss you guys.
Yeah, so the main goal that we have for this is to just talk to different young people and really amplify their voices of what they are doing in their own community, no matter how big or how small it may be. It's all impacting the world, and to really just kind of give them that platform to talk about it. And yeah, I don't really know, just
Yeah. Also, we want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable. If activism can be very scary when you're young, it's a huge thing, and sometimes people can paint you in a negative light for it and kind of poke fun, and that can interfere with your drive to, you know, just jump right in and do it. And we want to inspire you guys, and it can be done, and it's not that hard. It's just about finding yourself and finding that confidence to just go out and do it.
Well, I think it's great, and I think it'll be so awesome to have you guys as like kind of leading that conversation, because I think you're both very inspiring young women, and also both very good at listening to others' ideas and helping them kind of solidify them and encourage them. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay, I found a quote. If you want me to share it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we want to leave everyone with some inspiration. So going forward. So go ahead, inspire us.
So this quote is by, I would probably consider this person Bella's hero. Bella loves this person.
Mr. Logic?
Yeah.
He's literally my background.
So it says, if you could only sense how important you are to the lives of those you meet, how important you can be to the people you may never even dream of. There's something of yourself that you leave at every meeting with another person. Okay. So when I was reading that, I was trying to kind of understand it a little bit. And what I really like about it and how I think it applies to this podcast in general is even if things that you may think are insignificant really do have an impact on every single person, and those small conversations can turn into something really big and ultimately completely changing the generation or changing our world. Yeah.
100%. We are a global society, and we need to start acting like it and collaborating to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. That was a good quote. That's a perfect way to start.
We think
Okay.
also forward, it's important to note, because this podcast might sound a little diffy when it comes to adults, because it is focused around youth and finding your voice. But if you are an adult listening to this, note that this is not a diss track. This may just help you broaden your perspective and help you find ways to collaborate, because really the ultimate goal is to have this amazing collaboration between adults and young people. You have adults with the years of experience and the knowledge on how to execute it perfectly, and you have the younger generation having full of inspiration, wants to go out there, change the world, get it done, and together you really become this awesome dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I hope any adults listening to this realize that this is a learning opportunity. And again, like you said, there's nothing that is meant to be disrespectful. Just hopefully gets people to see things from a different perspective. So going forward, what can people expect from you guys, and how can they support you?
Going forward, interviews and just like really, really good conversations from a whole bunch of, like just a whole array of different people who are really impacting the world around them in various aspects. Also some stories, some jokes occasionally. There will always be a quote. There will always be an inspirational quote at the end. Yeah, it's a good time.
Okay, you can support us by either visiting one of the Instagram pages we have for From the Ground Up, or from Nourish My Soul, commenting and putting your input in, or visiting one of the Facebook pages and inputting, or donating on our website, nourishmysoul.org, where you'll also get other updates and such about what's going on.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. Do you have any last words for everybody, or?
Have a great day.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right. Thank you, guys.